president of Monsanto and other Monsanto executives that are controlling and working through revolving doors in our federal government to, again, pave the way for biotechnology such that the broad majority of GMO of acreage in the U.S. is now genetically engineered. So what are we going to do about it? Fortunately, over the last couple of years, there has been an upswelling of support for transparency in food labeling, so that while the science is still out and we need more research, and we do have concerning evidence of harm being caused by these, nothing conclusive, but while there is cause for concern and there is a need for further research, people have a right to opt out and to avoid purchasing these foods and to avoid supporting these questionable business practices. I feel that everyone has a right to know, whether you're shopping at a Whole Foods, shopping at the local corner store, you should be able to pick something up and tell if it's genetically engineered if you want to feed that to your family, right? So I got some good news to share with you. 3 states in the Northeast have already joined with 64 other countries in passing laws that allow consumers to know whether or not they're consuming these products. But these laws haven't gone into effect yet. Vermont, they just beat a lawsuit. Their law is set to go into effect July 1st, 2016. The injunction was denied. The lawsuit continues, but they're going to have to be they're going to get charged $1,000 a day per item if they don't label their GMOs. And so we're trying to do that here in Massachusetts and Rhode Island as well. Both states have a majority of support in their legislatures for bills that have been introduced. Here in Massachusetts, we have 200 legislators, 160 reps, and 40 senators. 154 of them have co-sponsored the GMO labeling bill. Let's hear it. I want to say thank you. I know so many people here have called, have written, have emailed, have come to our lobby days, have come to the hearing a couple years ago. Thank you for making your voice heard. This is democracy in action, right? Show me what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. And we're going to keep it moving because we got a hearing coming up in a few weeks. We haven't gotten the date yet, but if you go to our website, marightToKnow.org, follow us on Facebook, Mass Right to Know GMOs. We have some folks passing petitions around here. Please get your email down and we'll get you updated. And I want to announce that next week, starting on Tuesday, because of course we're going to observe the holiday, starting on Tuesday we're having a week of action to reach a critical mass of support for GMO labeling, because even though, get this, even though we have a majority of support in the legislature, a small number of people actually decide what gets brought up to vote. So even if it has a majority of support, it doesn't mean it's going to get voted on. So we need to turn up the volume. Monsanto has the millions of dollars, but we have the millions of people, and we can keep it going. So please check out our website, marightToKnow.org. You can talk to me afterwards. Tuesday is going to be a call and write your legislator day. Wednesday, we're going to have people calling local businesses and farms and organizations, asking them to join with over 350 other businesses, organizations, and local farms that have endorsed GMO labeling. Thursday, we're going to invite you to invite your friends over for a little movie night. 2 movies, GMO, OMG, and Open Sesame, The Story of Seeds, are available online and a great way to bring people into the movement. And then on Friday, we're going to have people calling their members of Congress to stop the DARK Act. We've been so successful at the state level that Monsanto and pals are now trying to pass federal legislation that would outlaw GMO labeling. So we need people to call their members of Congress on Friday and tell them to stop the DARK Act and to support mandatory GMO labeling. Who's with me? Can you guys help me out with that? All right, well, some of you may already get the emails that we send out every couple of weeks. We'll be sending out more this coming week, but if you're not getting the details, check it out on Facebook, check it out online, marightToKnow.org, Mass Right to Know. Thank you so much for being out here and for speaking up, and I hope to see you again next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Marty's like the ball of fire that I heard speak at the State House, and I've heard him speak to other places, and got me involved. I was like, I gotta help. This guy is just getting me going, and I gotta get out there and help. So maybe that's helping some of you again to get further into the movement, and maybe again you guys will be up here next year. So again, thank you, Marty. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. This is the March Against Monsanto Rally for World Food Justice. Again, I'm going to call to the people walking by, enjoying their beautiful afternoon in Boston. Come join us. Come see what it's all about, please.
To be contaminated with genetically engineered crops. You know, for generations, countless generations of the last at least 10,000 years, you know, farmers and you know, indigenous gather hunters and people save the best seed, the juiciest fruit, highest producing plants, and that has given us a common genetic heritage of all of the seeds, all the fruit plants, all the flowers that we've inherited. That's our common genetic heritage. And now we have a handful of private entities, these transnational corporations, that then take our common heritage, make a few tweaks to it in the lab, and then they own it. It becomes intellectual property. It is no less than biopiracy. Okay, I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know if it's, I'm seeing some nods. You know, I really want, this is the March Against Monsanto, so I can, you know, cut loose a little bit. You know, I don't have to be so conservative in how I talk about these things, because believe it or not, at least one day a week, I put a suit on and I go into the State House. Actually, it was hard to believe last year. If anyone was here last year, I had long hair. Had to clean up a little bit, you know, because I got to play the part. I got to go into the State House and help these legislators understand what all the noise is about. Why are their phones getting rung off the hook? Why are they getting all these emails about GMO labeling? And I get to explain to them, well, people want to know what they're eating. And in not so many words, if you want to get reelected, you should support this. But the reality is, this is an issue that is important to an increasing number of people. And, well, I consider myself a food sovereignty activist. I feel like we should have control over our food supply, what foods are available to us, and what our agricultural system looks like. And right now, one small way to enter into that, and one small way to regain some control over our food supply, is through GMO labeling. And you heard me mention, our food started getting genetically engineered 20 years ago, when the FDA had their politically engineered loophole that said GMOs are substantially equivalent, therefore they do not require any additional safety testing or labeling. That has been the government line since then. And in that time, we've gone from 100% traditionally bred crops to the point where more than 90% of corn, soy, canola, cotton, the major commodity crops, the majority of acreage in the United States is genetically engineered to do one of two things, or both. It's either engineered to withstand increasing applications of herbicides, most prominently glyphosate, which you heard Ed Stockton talk about, probably human carcinogen. Either to withstand increasing applications of herbicides, or to produce their own pesticides in every bite, in every cell that cannot be washed off. This is the model that's being perpetuated by the chemical manufacturers, companies like Dow, Syngenta, Bayer. These are chemical companies that are now life sciences, trying to greenwash their images like they didn't bring us DDT and Agent Orange and PCBs and said nothing to worry about there. Now they're spending record millions of dollars to keep us in the dark about what we're eating. So what are we doing about it? Well, some of you, anyone remember in 2012 there was a California ballot initiative for GMO labeling? Did anyone hear about that? Prop 37? That was my first introduction to this idea of GMO labeling. Again, I had my degree in biotechnology. I said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go be an activist. I didn't really know what I was going to do with my degree. I've been involved in the climate movement, environmental movement, animal rights movements, and when I heard about GMO labeling, I was like, wow, this is my opportunity to use my background in science to help people understand these issues and to promote transparency in the food economy. Because if we're going to let business run the world, and business is running the world, if we're going to have a free market system, people need information in order to make informed choices about what they're supporting with their food purchases. And that is what GMO labeling is about. It's providing one piece of factual information that's important to an increasing number of people. Now, the ballot initiative in California, Prop 37, they broke records for the monetary contributions to a state ballot initiative. The industry spent $45 million. We're talking $1 million a day carpet bombing the airwaves with disinformation and lies about GMO labeling. Before they started the ad campaign, we were leading 2-1. You ask anyone on the street, do you think genetically engineered food should be labeled? They don't even know what it is, but they're like, that sounds like something I don't want to eat, so yeah, I think it should be labeled. Now, of course, there are problems with people not understanding what that means, but I think there's something to that knee-jerk concern of, why is my food being modified in the lab? And shouldn't I know if I'm feeding my kids this food? And shouldn't I know if I'm supporting these things? So they spent $1 million a day on these ads, and by the time the vote came around, the initiative was narrowly defeated by a few percentage points. Okay? So we lost there, but while Monsanto was able to extinguish that fire in there, dozens of other flames popped up around the country. More than half of the states in the United States have introduced GMO labeling bills, and in 2013, Connecticut and Maine, within a week of each other, passed mandatory GMO labeling.
Hi, just a quick question. Is the Pirate Party still around?
Passing similar legislation before it takes effect. It's what's called a trigger clause. But last May, well not last May, in 2014, Vermont signed into law the first no strings attached GMO labeling law set to go into effect July 1st, 2016. Now, of course, hey, is anyone thirsty? I got some cold pressed juice here. I'm getting thirsty, so I'm going to have one. Anyone else want one? All right. Is that you? All right. So, Vermont passed this law, set to go into effect, of course. Now, they're being sued by the industry because, well, making them say what foods are genetically engineered is compelled speech. And corporations are people too, my friend. So, it is supposedly against their constitutional rights as corporations that they shouldn't have to disclose this information. Now,
isn't this the same thing they did with bovine growth hormone?
Yes. So now they filed an injunction, which means it delays implementation of the law for the lawsuit, because the lawsuit could take years. Well, a couple weeks ago, a federal court ruled that the law will still go into effect while the lawsuit continues, and it is very unlikely that they're going to have a resolution to the lawsuit before July 2016. That's really good news for us. So, Connecticut, Maine, Vermont, more than half of the states have introduced legislation. We're all talking, we're all working together on social media and the email list. We're making sure we have cohesive language, strong language that will protect our right to know, because we don't want a patchwork of state laws. We want to set the standard for GMO labeling so that when we hit a critical mass, it will be passed at the federal level. Before I tell you about Massachusetts, let me tell you what's happening at the international and the national level. We've been so successful at grassroots GMO labeling initiatives that Monsanto and pals are now lobbying our Congress to pass a bill that would make mandatory labeling illegal. It was introduced by Representative Mike Pompeo, with close ties to the Koch brothers from Kansas. Yeah, he introduced a law it's called the Safe and Affordable Food Act. We're calling it the DARK Act, Denying Americans' Right to Know. And unfortunately, it's been gaining some steam. So you heard me mention on Friday we're going to have a national, or part of a national day of action to contact Congress to let them know that this is not the GMO labeling bill we're looking for. So they're trying to outrun us at the federal level. Has anyone heard about the TPP?
Yeah.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership Coalition, which includes the Retailers Association of Massachusetts, Associated Industries of Massachusetts, Mass Bio. I can give you a list, including many of the big supermarkets, so like Big Y, Market Basket, Stop and Shop. They're all part of a Retailers Massachusetts Food Association. That they may not even be aware of it, but their membership is supporting a coalition that is lobbying against GMO labeling. We also have opposition from the medical biotech community, not overtly, but people are concerned that this is going to reflect poorly on medical biotech. And again, I'm not against biotechnology. I want to see more research. My friend's a PhD researcher at UMass Amherst. He just figured out a possible cure for skin cancer. I want him to work with his GMO rats and figure that out. Like, please, genetically modify those rats, whatever you got to do, figure out skin cancer. Yes, I'm not personally not against that. But people think that if people are against GMOs in their food, that that's going to be bad for medical biotech. And medical biotech is really big in Massachusetts. So I want to draw that distinction, But really, it's just a lot of misinformation coming down from the big groups.
There's a lot of discourse in like the business journals. It's like you can see that it's changing. It's like, you're denying science.
Oh yeah. You guys saw the flack that Chipotle got, right?
Yeah.
Chipotle is now GMO free. Yeah. Definitely. That's where I'm going to be going after this. Y'all can join me. They are threatening the whole narrative, and that's a big. They got 1,800 restaurants, big name, and they've gone GMO free. Mark my words, they're going to be organic in a couple of years. I guarantee it. It's going to take time for these to line up. And this is about shifting the market. It's not going to happen overnight. But if we have greater transparency, we have people interested, asking questions, looking into these things, the market is shifting. A lot of major companies are quietly reformulating to phase out GMOs. You're going to be hearing about a lot of major brands coming out in the next year or so that are GMO free. We already had the Hershey's Kisses now, GMO free, Cheerios, Chipotle, but we're going to hear more. There's a few that I've heard that are won't disclose, but big companies that are trying to get GMOs out. questions about the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's one of a suite of international free trade agreements. There's also the TPIP and TAFTA. Yeah, that's right. These are. If anyone remembers the battle in Seattle in 1999, I was like, well, I wasn't there, but it was that was the last time there was these big international free trade agreements. That, I mean, these are transnational corporations making the rules for how governments are going to regulate. These are under the auspices of, like, stimulating the economy and creating jobs. Of course, the big enemy of jobs is regulation, right? Couldn't possibly have anything to do with predatory capitalist practices and all that, but let's not go there. You can if you want. But the international free trade agreements are a direct threat to our national sovereignty. These new agreements are NAFTA on steroids. They're going to be able to issue summons to national leaders to a corporate tribunal. Doesn't that sound great, a corporate tribunal? I wouldn't want to get summoned to a corporate tribunal, I'll tell you. And that they're going to be able,
everyone.
They're going to be able to
Thank
sue
you so
member
much.
nations
Everyone
to
who's
regulate
so
against their interests. So,
concentrated and engaged in the teachings, which is exactly what we were hoping for. So thank you so much. Just a little warning to wrap up the conversations as best you can. Make sure to figure out some next steps, contact information. And I would like to ask Marie Soulfire Taylor to approach the stage.